Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Late night here. Well, late for me.
It's late, bro. It's late.
Yeah, it's late. A lot of margaritas and IPAs and
Yes.
beautiful. Jared Mattson.
Enchiladas.
They were so good. Jared Mattson, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, man.
Thank you, brother. Good to be
So
here.
beautiful to be with you, man. This was something. Can you, like, my brother and I, we would get on each other's nerves, we'd fight. But in a musical thing, how did you most effectively, can you give an example of how you would motivate him or he motivated you to get out of a rut? Or if you're getting on each other's nerves, laugh it off? Because ultimately, I mean, maybe that didn't even exist. But I'm just saying, like,
it did.
there had to be a way. Is there an example of some time when you knew how to inspire him to raise his game?
No, because I didn't inspire. He inspired me, bro.
Dig. So talk about that. Yeah.
So here's what it is. Dude.
Yeah.
Here's what it is.
Yeah.
So I was progressing pretty well on guitar, like through junior high. That's when we both started. We both started on guitar, and there's a lot of interviews that talk about this, but whatever. This is, coming from the horse's mouth.
That's what my show is.
And
Direct from the source.
the reason why Jonathan is so inspiring, even to this day, is that we both started on guitar, and he wasn't making moves like I was. Like, he was still playing, and where I was playing like freaking, I can't even play it right now, but I was playing like Randy Rhoads and stuff.
Sure.
Like Ozzy Osbourne. And like, I started falling in love with the instrument, and like, it became a part of me, like a very small appendage, but now it's a big part. But I started realizing the power of it. And only in hindsight did I realize that maybe I was like wondering, what's going on with Jonathan? Like, why isn't he progressing? And then he moved to bass, and he's actually a good bass player. He played bass like 4 days ago or something, and played amazing bass even to this day. He hasn't touched a bass in 10 years, and he's still a really good bass player. Amazing. And he's like, what are the notes that you played again? And I was like, well, he's got the feel for sure. Even like, cause you can have the feel because he's a drummer, but like the physicality of it too.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
he's a great bass player. But he was.
It's also like placement of the notes, though. It's like that's an art,
placement
man.
of the notes. And then he like experimented on vocals. He was in that. I'm like, so when is he gonna find his thing? And then he found the drums. And then like when he found the drums, we were talking about this earlier over,
Margaritas.
enchiladas and margaritas. Yeah. But like, dude, when you have a drummer and another instrument, that's a complete band. You have percussion and you have harmony and melody. Like, that's all you need. You need rhythm, harmony, melody.
That's right.
And so Jonathan started playing drums when he was 15. And he started playing jazz towards the end of age 15. So jazz is the only type of drums that he like ever learned. He learned a little bit of Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills, and like Enter Sandman. But aside from all that,
this is so sick, dude.
Aside from all that, like, he's a jazz drummer.
Yeah.
He's a freaking jazz
He
drummer.
doesn't put a key to a drum.
He actually doesn't put a key to a drum.
That's fucking badass.
Like,
that's Al Jackson right
like
there.
we were
right?
like, dude, that's beautiful that you said that, because I'm like, that helped me appreciate Jonathan's
dude.
vibe.
So sick.
Because he's like, no, I don't have a key. Like, but
dude, I want to go back to the simple. He kept it simple. I mean, you were very like you talked about the blues riff that he was playing on guitar.
Yeah.
It was always percussive. And it was always rhythmic.
I think what we could overanalyze it, and there's not as much data.
I guess here's the point.
It,
how did he inspire? How did he get you to grow?
He inspired me because you have a freaking built-in drummer. Like, dude, anyone in history, all they ever say is like, you want to be a good musician? Find a good drummer.
Right.
That's what Jonathan was. That's what he is. And so it's like having that amazing rhythmic inspiration always there whenever you need it. Boom. That's like the holy grail. And then aside from that, he's a very deep listener. So where I like I know all the notes and stuff, and I can play the notes, but he's like, no, that doesn't sound good. So it's like he's like, we need to change that, or like we need to. So he's pretty much the music director, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of like Art. He was like Art Blakey, dude. Like he was the leader. Like we're both leaders, but he was the leader. Like
Right.
that doesn't sound. No, that's.
So
not working.
you fell into that. I mean, you had your own thing that you brought to the table, but you respected the fact that he was. There was no ego thing there. I mean,
There was no ego thing, but and what he was saying wasn't even ego. It was just like vision.
no.
Just,
That's what
he was
his.
just like,
That's what his genius. That's what his strength was.
Yeah, he's
He
like
saw it.
he
He heard
literally
it.
was like, that doesn't sound good.
Right.
We need to figure out these notes. He didn't know what the notes were, but he's like, those don't sound good.
Did like Robin Ford?
Does that make sense?
No, it's
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, Robin Ford borrowed. I mean, again, it was a different time, but he borrowed a book on jazz chords, a Marty Baker book. I forget the guy's name. And then playing through, he didn't know the scales, so he got a book on scales. You were talking before about being at a certain point when you first started playing with your brother, you couldn't play the rhythm and chords at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
No.
So how did that evolve for you? Like what was did that come out of a book, or did you like learn? How did you learn to supercharge your facility?
Dude, it came out of a book. What came out of it was like I learned in a book that
Yeah.
this was Aeolian. So like this is a scale Aeolian. So I'm like, oh, we can make a song based off of that. Like
Huh.
But I don't even think I played chords during that time. I was just like I literally just stayed in that scale. It wasn't that exciting, you know?
Yeah.
You imagine that sound of just drums, it's just like lead guitar.
I mean, I could listen to that all day.
Really? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I was, in hindsight, I was like, dude, who would listen to that? It's just like... But, I mean, whatever. I have lots of baggage and lots of, you know, history that I'm drawing from that I wasn't drawing from then.
Right.
But we pretty much just like... I remember, I think one of the songs that you wrote was just was a Randy Rhoads lick from Ozzy Osbourne, but it was just which is just pentatonic, the most basic scale you could ever think of, just 5-note scales. But we would do stuff like that with just Jonathan ripping on the drums, and he'd only been playing drums for like 6 months, and then we'd play gigs and we'd be built as like a jazz band. And we didn't even know what we were doing. So, like,
oh, they're playing jazz.
we were kind of fakes a little bit.
Well,
Well, we weren't fakes, but we were generally doing what we believed in. But it was like we weren't sticking to the...
it's called punk,
kinda like
punk
what you-
music. Dude.
The way you described Archie was kind of what we were doing. Like,
Really?
We weren't sticking to...
That's right, the traditional
you know,
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what were the? I mean, Dolphy was heavily criticized. It affected him greatly. What do you say about how have you guys handled critiques, or has it always just been? You know, how have you dealt with the criticism or the misunderstandings or the? I mean, I'm just saying a lot of cats got bullied by the media into. But you know, they never changed their sound, but maybe it cut their life short. I just wonder, from an artist's point of view, how you deal with that, especially because it's so removed from what the antecedent or seed is of a song. It's somebody else's, you know, what they think it is.
I honestly wish that there was more critique, because it would mean that we were that much more in people's
Right. It was more critical.
spotlight.
Yeah. Right.
But the one critique that we did have that was profound for us was when we met a bass player in San Diego, an upright bassist. We thought we were gonna like go to his house to have a jam session. His name is Bob Magnuson. Amazing.
Oh, dude.
Bassist.
Dude.
You know him.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. You know what? I haven't interviewed him yet. Now I'm motivated because I mean, dude, the guy was playing with everybody.
Yeah, he played with Thelonious Monk.
Joe
Sarah
Farrell,
Vaughan,
everybody. No, the nasty fit.
Peter Sprague, who's a local legend, hero of mine too.
Is he still around?
He is. Yeah,
Sprague?
you should interview him.
Sprague?
Sprague. He played with Chick Corea.
Dude, no. I got all his albums on Muse.
He's
dude.
in Lucadia, which is.
Oh my God, it's all coming
Where
together.
we were
dude.
born. I mean, not born, but you know.
Yeah.
What
did he say to you guys? What was the feedback?
So he said. We never saw his bass. His bass wasn't in the room.
Right.
We thought we were gonna go there and play with him, and he was gonna play bass. We were like kids, you know. We were 15.
Right. And he never brought the instrument out.
The instrument wasn't even there. Like, what? We're gonna jam. Let's jam. He was just so naive. And then he's like, "Why don't you?" He was amazing. He was a sensei. He's like, total karate master. He's like, "Why don't you play it? Why don't you play him a song?" And we played him a song, and then he's like, "What song do you want to play?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Giant Steps." I have trouble playing Giant Steps to this day. Giant Steps is the tour de force of modern music. Like, it's the most incredibly sophisticated, complicated piece you could ever hope to perform and play and understand. And we came into his house and we're like, "Yo, Giant Steps." And I played the melody, of course. Like, everyone could play a melody. But then after that, it just went to crap.
Right.
Like, we didn't understand that in jazz, you have to stick to the form of the piece. So you have to stick to, so whatever chords are being played, like, you have to play those chords the whole time. Those are the chords that you're basing your solo on. So you're basically recreating a melody over the chords that the melody was created over. So it's like, we didn't understand that concept of jazz. And so when we played our version of that, it was there, like you hinted at, there was no bass, there was no rhythm guitar. It was just lead guitar and drums. So that is the most important context in which you try and show that you're following the chord changes, and we didn't know what the chord changes were. So we were just playing whatever we wanted. And then so when we finished the song, he goes, "So at this point, I would not be able to play with you." He said, "At this point, it would be impossible for me to play with you." Because we didn't know what we were doing.
Sure. Well, I mean...
So that was good critique. And then he almost like a prescription, he pulled out a little pad of paper, and he goes, "So Jared, Bob Boss, you should study with Bob Boss, and Jonathan, you should study with Duncan Moore. There's a most amazing guitarist and jazz drummer in the area." And he's like, "So tell them that I sent you." It was a prescription. He said, "Tell them that Bob Magnuson."
Is such an amazing story.
Tell them that Bob Magnuson.
I love Magnuson, dude.
Tell them that Bob Mattson sent you, and they will take you as students if you tell them that I sent you.
Right.
Like, basically. And then sure enough they did, and they made us.
So basically, what he was saying was,
they taught us jazz.
He goes, I believe in you, but just you need help.
I mean, obviously, I had the motor skills to play
Right.
whatever, and then and Jonathan too. But one thing that Jonathan was doing that if he was here, he would have told you, is that so jazz is 1, 2, 4. So my kick, 1, 2, 3. It's on the 2s and the 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
Right.
He was doing it on the 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. He was hitting everything on the 1s and the 3s. So it sounded like this. Not. So they sound similar, but he was doing everything on the 1s, but everything had to be on the 2s.
Sure.
So he was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing, but it was off by 1 beat. So it was enough to throw everything off. Like, if one thing is off, you had to move it so it's on. And so
with Duncan Moore, he got that.
Oh, right away, within a month or
Duncan
less.
was like that. Just folk, make your emphasis on it.
Everything has to be on the 2s and 4s.
Yeah.
But I don't know why no jazz musician has ever played on the 1s and the 3s. Why not play on the 1s and the 3s?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, why keep it this like
because
unspoken hierarchy of 2s and 4s? Like, why not?
Well, there's an old saying that says black folk clap on the 2 and 4, and white folk clap on the 1 and 3.
So that's probably what was.
And
happening.
so I mean
probably what
blues.
was
I mean
happening.
because if it's blues and jazz is a descendant of the blues.
Yeah,
You can't do it on 1 and 3.
that's probably what
Right.
was happening. Yeah.
So it goes way back because the Sanctified Church, they were clapping on 3 and 4. They didn't even have a trap set.
Right.
They were doing tambourine, shakers, sticks, and then diaspora hand clapping. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. I mean, like
Yeah.
I asked this to a drummer, Alex Kofer, today, who he's getting his own band off the ground. I mean,
Nice.
where do you approach music, even the business side of it, with any expectations? Is there, or is it purely intention? Like, it's intentions of playing music and affecting hearts and minds. I mean, I know there's a business component to it, but do you have people that can take care of that for you? Because to me, the artist has to wear 8 hats today. It's so fucking hard, And I wonder how we talked a little bit about you getting an education or getting some tips, but are you at a point where you can focus strictly on the art itself and know that in a normal time that you could sing for your supper, on the bandstand, and not have to worry about the business side of it?
Affecting hearts and minds is. What did you say? Affecting hearts and minds is.
Impacting hearts and minds, whatever.
Impacting hearts and minds is a deep, concerning thing that you can never escape. So that's always going to be there.
That's paramount.
That's paramount. So you're never going to get detached from that. That's like the most, unless you're a very narcissistic musician. Like,
And there are plenty out there, but yeah.
Plenty. But I mean, I would use Ryuichi Sakamoto as a beautiful example, and also Miles Davis. Even though Miles was a jerk to a lot of people, as everyone talks about, like everyone hates on his, the way he treated some people.
Not to the musicians. He treated them very. If he liked you, I mean, he would play the band and pay them out of his own pocket just to get the band work.
That's true.
I mean, he was standoffish, and he could be perceived as cold.
Okay, so
anyway,
despite that coldness, he look at any interview, like check it out. He cared deeply about what the audience thought of his music. He could be the most sour person in the room, but he cared whether or not people liked his music.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing that musicians need to think about. I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but this is just what I'm thinking about. Is that
they need to care more. They need to do what they feel inside.
Dude, you're nothing without the audience. So do something that is going to make you happy, but also that's going to make the audience happy.
But do you oftentimes, you and your brother have to get off first? You have to get off first before that can translate to the audience. Oftentimes I will come and bring an added energy, like with my own presence. But
hell yeah.
Ayrton said. I mean, people say I play for myself because in that sense, then the audience is going to be inspired if I'm inspired.
I play for myself, imagining that I'm making other people happy.
Right.
So it's like
that's cool. Yeah,
it's like I don't play for myself just to play for myself. I play for myself because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something that I believe in, hoping with the sending it out into the air, hoping that this is gonna translate to the people who are listening. So I'm not.
Or just one.
Yeah, or just one named Jake. But no.
But that's the way I look at the work that I'm doing too. Is that it's sending out a vibration.
Oh, let me say this. Let me say this, Jake.
Please.
You can boil down what pleases a listener to a science. So if it's in key, if it has perfect fifths, if it has, thirds and minors or major thirds, you can boil down to a science what is actually pleasing to the human ear.
Right.
So you can stick to that stuff and then use it as a basis for bigger ideas. But as long as you're like, it's a weird thing for me to say because you can probably boil down every element of music into what I just said. But it's like as long as you play with the audience in mind. So Jimi Hendrix, even though he burned his guitar when he played like Voodoo Lady or whatever, like Voodoo Lady is a very visceral, tangible, rhythmic riff
Right.
that everyone understood. And so, like, go to outer space, but bring it back home.
Don't lose the audience.
Don't lose the
Yeah,
audience.
some people would
And
say
that's
that.
what, that's it.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
You're the expert on the Dead. I'm not. But like the Dead were good at that because they could go out and come back, go out and come back. Sometimes they wouldn't come back, but they've come back enough times for their audience who are already there that they wouldn't.
And their audience
care.
was very forgiving. They let them suck a lot. Okay, like
Yeah.
they were not always on, but the audience, it was worth it when
Apparently
they hit
they
it.
sucked a lot for my dad, and he didn't really like them.
You know what? And you know what? And a lot. And you know what? It's okay. Like there's also a large swath of people that would look at skiffle players like that.
Yeah.
The thing I love about the Grateful Dead is just it's all heart. I mean, it's just and to me they're really going for it, and they know they're just kind of
You
posing.
know what Jerry did?
Yeah.
Which was amazing?
Yeah.
So like if you're playing like E minor, everyone plays like the blues like this. So they go like, let's do A minor because this fret's kind of broken. But A minor. So like. Everyone focuses on this. It's called the blue note. That's the blue note. Jerry threw another note in there that not a lot of people do, which is this major 7 in there. So
I can hear it. I can hear it.
it's and he'd throw the major 3rd in there too. That was his blues. That's the minor and the major. That's the magic note. That's the magic Jerry note. In my opinion, over the minor pentatonic.
Mm-hmm.
The magic Jerry note is the major 7 and all of that. And then you'd also see, and I learned this actually from Neal Casal, is that you see a lot of, you can map it out in a visual thing too. As long as you have the motor skills to do like rhythms, like the motor skills are everything, right? So basically all I'm doing is I'm doing chromatic. So I don't know enough about Jerry, but just as a jazz musician, I think he learned the chromatic scale, and his world was open up, and it's like that's all I need to do, and that's exactly what Ornette Coleman was doing too, and they actually played together.
Absolutely.
On Virgin Beauty.
Well, actually, going back in the day, Jerry, a lot of people don't know he played with Vince Guaraldi and Cal Tjader too. So I mean, he was never a jazzer, and he could never be mistaken for that. But I think you're picking up on something that other musicians that played with him. Minor 7th, you said? It's the minor 7th?
It was the major 7.
Major 7th.
Because everyone does the minor, but this is the major.
Right. And, because I worship at that guy's altar. You're nailing it. That's
Incredible.
what I hear. It's
and
amazing.
Then, and then so like, then listen to this too.
Yeah.
That's all chromatic. That's the chord. When he go out, he goes so out. But you hear where I came back home?
You are giving me Oh.
That's home right
Dude.
there. But anyways, you know what I mean. But it's like Matheny, Pat Metheny, one of my biggest influences. He's like, dude, the notes don't matter as long as you have rhythm. I don't even know what key I'm in right now, but I'm just trying to keep the rhythm. The rhythm is the most important.
Jeez.
Rhythm is the most important. It's just.
I got one question before my phone battery dies.
Yeah,
I want
yeah.
you to talk about. I don't need to know the. Well, you can say whatever you want, but you know, how do you try to honor Neal Casal? I know you've been off the road for a while, but when you get back on the road, I mean, he's always there. How do you try to honor him? What was inspiring? Like I told you before, I came into his existence when he was playing instrumental music, which I thought, was part of his bag, but it turned out it was just kind of a new thing that he started doing it.
Dude,
But just riff on Casal, man.
I honor his persona by remembering the beautiful person that he was as a human, not just as a musician, but like that beautiful persona of acceptance would always shine through in the music. Like we played, I remember Jonathan and I were obsessed with like British punk at the time, and to this day I don't know if Neal was that into that. I think he actually was without a lot of people doing it.
He probably was, yeah.
Like Gang of Four was the band that I'm referencing. So Gang of Four, we played this song, and we did it at this surf shop in Venice, Mollusk, and
I know it well. In
just
Silver Lake?
yeah. Well, Silver Lake is the Mollusk, and then there's another Mollusk in Venice Beach.
You did one in Venice? Yeah.
And we just played the chords, and I just remembered knowing his, because I didn't know him too well at the time.
Yeah.
But knowing his history as like, the psychedelic sick stuff that he's doing at the time, curious how you'd think about what we were doing, and like this was the song that we were like, oh, let's just jam on this song.
Sure.
And he was just all for it, like just consuming it. He was constantly ready to just consume anything in his path musically.
But it was something new, that he was tasting something that was delectable.
It was new, and it was. I think he was most taken aback by Jonathan's rhythm.
Yeah.
Because it was so.
Jazzy. It was swinging.
It was jazzy.
Swing. It was it was swung. The music was swinging hard.
It was swinging super hard, and it wasn't like four on the floor. Like
Exactly. No, that's what I hate the people don't understand what swing means, but it's not the four on the floor.
It was insane. But the
sweeping the floor.
The most beautiful memory I have of Neal is how much he loved the Dodgers. And we were sitting at
I don't think I even knew he was a baseball fan.
We were sitting at a bar in Hollywood, and we were getting ready to play a show that we had worked really hard on together. So we were recreating the music of Gabor Szabo, and the baseball game was on, and he also really liked burgers, and we were eating burgers, and like
he did like burgers,
and he was just like, Dodgers, man, they're sucking tonight. They're and he was so bummed.
Dude, I had no idea that he was a Dodger fan, man.
He was so bummed. I hope I'm right. That's what I remember, at least.
What can you say about Neal? Because he would always be very self-deprecating, but at the same time,
I never noticed that about him.
Big time. Well, in my first book.
Yeah.
He doesn't belittle himself, but he doesn't consider himself.
He doesn't know how amazing he is, basically.
That's true. But he definitely. I guess what I'm saying is how, talk to cats, not that you have limitations, but how can you get beyond that and still stretch out? Like you at a certain point as a musician, either you can really stretch and you can go to the cosmos, and you it's innate. Like we were talking about Carlos before, you know,
Yeah.
you just go there. But some cats are just like, okay, these are my limitations, but there's ways to get around that. I just know that there were sophisticated blues players that Neely loved who could play all kinds of substitutions like Mel Brown. They weren't jazz players, but they were playing kind of a sophisticated. I just would like you to talk to younger peeps who maybe are in a rut or maybe they have limitations. But how do you get around it, and how can you continue to inspire yourself to keep growing?
When the most impactful time that I could speak for my brother, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The most impactful time we had was at his house in Ventura, and we were in his tiny living room, and we were just surrounded by music, like surrounded by records. He had walls of records. He was truly lived and breathed music. But there's so much that he didn't do on his instrument yet. You know, he did his own thing.
Sure.
And then, like, he taught me so many things, but I also taught him things like, I taught him that, like, Gabor Szabo liked to use Phrygian.
Phrygian flat twos. Yeah. Oh, totally.
And he's all, that's what he was doing? And he understood right away, like right when I showed him. But regardless, he's such a freaking gnarly player that he's like, okay, that's what's happening, and then he just like completely recreated it in his own way that was worlds insanely elevated than I could ever do, you know, whatever. But
how did you guys?
But it's like,
yeah.
But the point is that I'm saying is like, the reason why he understood that is because he listened to so much music. So like, just listen, and do what you can to like play what you're hearing, but like play with other people to like.
Well, that's what I
help
was
you
going to
figure
say.
out
Like
the puzzle,
when you introduced him to what Gabor was doing, it wasn't. It seemed like a light bulb went off immediately.
It did.
It was just. It's about listening.
And you
just
know,
listen to it.
strangely enough,
Huh,
bro. You
yeah.
know, strangely enough, it was exactly what I told you is the major 7.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
This is major 7. So I remember the time I told him, I'm like, so just play E minor, but add this note too. That's Eastern. That's Eastern music right there. It's Hungarian. It's Middle Eastern. It's whatever.
It's gypsy. Yeah.
That major 7 is everything. So yeah, it just took. You know, he's an amazing musician. So it took a few words, but me watching him, I was like, he taught me how to bend. Like, how do you bend? Like, I never bend my notes before Neal. I can't really bend on this. Like, instead of just going here, he would
really accentuate it out. Really bend it.
You know what's ironic though is that what made me bend was him realizing that bending doesn't work when you're playing Gabor Szabo. He's like, whoa, I can't bend right now. When he was like, I can't bend.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I'd never bend anyways. And then he was trying to bend. I'm like, that sounds awesome. And so now I started bending. You know what I mean?
In a non-Gabor Szabo context.
Oh, it's beautiful. He gave me that.
So
gift.
beautiful.
He gave me the gift of bending, man. So
the gift of bending.
I've never stopped.
Casal, the gift that keeps on giving. Neal Casal.
Never stopped bending since then. And even in jazz context, you can make a bend work if you do it right.
You've been on a Bebop binge lately?
I have. Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, what you've really gone down a rabbit hole.
To me, it's more.
You're just trying to keep your chops up.
It's more study. I don't ever hope to recreate it or hope to.
Who are your go-to bop guitar players?
That's the thing, man. There's not a lot. I mean, there are, but it's like Grant Green. Grant Green is surprisingly the most bop I've found.
That's acid bop. Well, whatever that means. I mean,
it is and it isn't, man.
Did he do recordings in the 50s? I mean, I feel like his work in the 60s is totally psychedelicized.
Like I said, bro, the guitarists are 10 years behind.
You're all right. There you go. 66. Because when did he do Idle Moments? That was like 66.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's kind of what.
Is one of the greatest.
Jazz
guitar records ever made.
Train was. That modal period was a few years before. It all sort of evens out. I think.
Yeah.
For people that are going to watch this
But like.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I could demonstrate Grant Green because he's the one I know the most.
Dig it.
But like, one thing I realized about bebop is that it's all about the major triad. So like everyone knows the D chord. So you just do the D chord. And you fit other thing around. That's the D chord. So one thing I realized about bebop is it's like everything is just a big major triad. Like that's a scrapper from the Apple, the Charlie Parker. Back to melody. To the improvisation, it's just based off F major.
Amazing.
And then little transitions here and there. That's the same triad. Same thing. That's the same thing I just said. Everything is a triad. So even when it goes to the altered part, like the A7, it's the same thing. So that's what Grant Green did amazingly, even though he was like a few years after, he did that language perfectly. The bebop language of So I mean, he was like a few years later, but
unbelievable.
Dude, he's I think as far as like bebop language and like the intensity of what the horns were bringing to the music, Barney Kessel's amazing, but he doesn't do it for me. Grant Green, even though he's like a little bit more delayed, he was even after Wes Montgomery.
Yeah.
But like his power on his instrument and the distortion that he used and like the bite and the tone and the note choice, he's by far the most amazing bebop in my opinion. Lines.
Yes. I mean, Jared Mattson, you fucking blew my mind, dude.
Bro, dude. We're just having a cookout, as you like to have, bro.
I mean, dude, I gotta be honest. I gotta refill. I gotta refill the gas station. I mean, we cooked tonight. Too. My brain is boiled. My reason was spent.
Sorry, everyone, if we went too long.
Honestly, dude, much love, dude. Thank you for
Pleasure.
being a good cat. Man.
Thank you, brother. I hope
Later
this
on.
is a resource for people and hope you enjoy it.
Lifetimes.
Pleasure.
Dude.
Cheers.
Lifetimes. Yeah. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.
Beautiful.